Nightly Musers, followers of the pod, faithful few and hopeful many, this is Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's the very platform that allows me to give you what I give you on the nightly. So let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And it gives you the ability to distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally FREE free. So here's where you come in. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.fm to get started. Thank you very much. Peace. Welcome to the Nightly Muse, Nightly Musers. This is your host, Tinayeshe. Shout out Low Fly. So, here is the episode where I finally talk about the thing that everybody asks me all the dang time. Tinayeshe or Kennedy? Which one is it? Okay. So just get ready for long tangents because that's what this podcast is. And that's just who I am. I was hanging out with my dude Cesar. And I feel like I said it wrong. Cesar. Yeah, I said it right that time. Let's go. But anyway, I go on tangents. I wax poetic. This is what this podcast is really for. Sometimes I have more pointed, structured places that I go to. But for the most part, this is me verbally processing the things that live in my brain so that they don't have to live in my brain all the time. And hopefully so that it's an encouragement to somebody that also feels the way that I feel, or at least thinks the way that I think, where they've got a lot of thoughts in their mind and they just need a space to let it go. And hopefully there's some overlap, some intertwining of my brain and the thoughts that I have with some of y'all. Tinayeshe or Kennedy. My government is Tinayeshe Kennedy Manyika. I don't know what Manyika means. I'm not even sure it's an actual, I don't know what it means in Shona. I know what my first name means. And there's also a tribe, a Manyika tribe. I'm actually not a part of that tribe. We are from a different, according to my father. So, I don't know a lot about my last name. But, my first name, Tinayeshe, it means, so Tinaye in Shona, it means we are with, or we have. Ishe, break down my name. Tinayeshe is really what it is, but it's Tinayeshe. You take off the I. Ishe is spelled I-S-H-E. Tinaye, T-I-N-A-Y-E. Drop the I, S-H-E. God, Ishe. So it's like the inverse of Emmanuel. Emmanuel is God with us. Tinaye, Ishe, Tinayeshe is we are with God, or we have Him, God. Kennedy comes from my grandfather. It also comes from colonization, and I say that, and people laugh. The scramble for Africa. The English came down to Zimbabwe, colonized it, and now introduction of white, European, Anglo-Saxon, Scottish names. Kennedy. I don't know what it means, but it comes from my grandfather. My grandfather's name is Kennedy Grant Dick Manyika, and my name comes from Kennedy. So my whole life, my mom has always called me Kennedy or Kenny, not Kenny. She don't call me that. It's corny. Kenny. That's how she always said it. The inflection, the emphasis is on a different syllable. It's not Kenny. It's Kenny. So if you want to call me Kenny, it's Kenny. But really, it ain't for y'all. That's for my family. All right? I'm just giving y'all the inside scoop. So it really doesn't matter when people ask me So the situation, I changed my Instagram and my Facebook to Tinayeshe. And I was gonna try to introduce myself as Tinayeshe to people, but it's just, at this point, Tinayeshe just looks cooler on my social media. My Instagram is tinayeshe.k, and I thought it looked slick, and so that I was just kind of in a rebranding mode. But here's the thing, I like both of them. And so the real thing, what happened was, I was at a church, Mosaic Church in Charlotte, and the pastor, Pastor Naeem, shout out, he found out that my first name was Tinayeshe, and he's like, you go by another name though. And I was like, yeah, my middle name is Kennedy. And so he's like, teach me how to say your first name. So I teach him, it's Tinayeshe, and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna call you that. And I was like, bet. And when I was in high school, one of my English teachers, Mrs. Simborski, she's like one of my second moms. She's one of my moms. She was like, ooh, I'm calling you Tinayeshe. That's your name. And I'm like, that is my government. This is true, but people call me Kennedy. But I like Tinayeshe. So your name is Tinayeshe. You should go by Tinayeshe in college. And so I tried it out in college, and partly because my government is Tinayeshe, so it makes it hard because on rosters and everything, that's the name that people see. So everybody calls me Kennedy, 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 and then there's this roster. There's the classic long pause, palms get sweaty, backsides get tight. I was going to say butt cheeks get tight, but I figured that wasn't appropriate, but I just said it, so it's fine. Backsides get tight, lips start to quiver a little bit, they get nervous. Whoo, there's a name that I don't know how to, it don't sound American, it don't look it either. What do I do? Tanisha, Tinayeshe. Ooh, Lord. And I'm like, hey, just call me Kennedy. And what made it worse was Charlotte Christian spelled my name wrong for the first few years that I attended. So in middle school, every time people said my name, it ended with an A, not an E, and they would say it wrong, and it was miserable. I got called a girl. It was a tough time. But anyway, because of the social difficulties that came with trying to get people to pronounce my first name correctly, being misgendered because of how they were saying my name, and the overall it just became a nuisance. The worst was when people wouldn't even try. I was like, dang, you ain't even going to take a shot? Not even take an attempt, bro? No swing? Oh, that was tough. But I just kind of hated my name. It was just more grief than it was anything else. And so I went by Kennedy. Granted, my mom called me Kennedy, which is funny to me because the story that she told me was she didn't get to name, like, my older sisters. Other people had kind of a say in what their name was gonna be. Ray is named after my grandmother, my late grandmother, and Danielle is named after my aunt. And her middle name, or is it? I can't remember now. Anyway, I'm not going to be throwing out their governments, but they're named after, they've got names from different family members. And so I was going to be named something else. My actual name was going to be Tinayeshe, which I believe is the strength of God. But as you can tell, the first 5 letters of that name is rather famous from Disney. There's a cat, a really big lion, that's kind of a big deal, that's named Simba. And so, kind of glad I didn't get that name. A cousin of mine was named that before I was, so that X'd it off. But my mom wanted to have some, like, level of autonomy with my name. So my grandmother, I'm the only boy. Oh, his name is Kennedy. And my mom's like, his middle name is Kennedy. So she named me Tinayeshe. which to me is hilarious because I don't think they've ever called me Tinayeshe primarily. They've always called me Kennedy. And so, anyway, so at home, I'm called Kennedy. At school, my government is shown, but I would rather them just call me Kennedy because I don't want to deal with the strife. And so I developed a level of hatred towards Tinayeshe because y'all white people just were getting it. They were just messing it up all the time. And so I was like, man, like, it's enough grief. It's a long name. To me, it's not that hard to say. It's fairly phonetic, but America's linguistic, whatever, phonology, y'all just say things weird. Y'all got PHs that sound like Fs and silent letters and all this jazz. Tinayeshe. A-E-I-O-U. A-E-A-E. is the I sound. Like, it's if you pronounce, it's like, it's phonetic. It's not that hard. But anyway, I'm over here trying to teach y'all how to say it. It was tough. And when I got to college, I went by Tinayeshe, and I actually had the energy for it because of Mrs. Simborski. And then it got confusing because then one of my friends from high school, we were in the same space, and then everybody was like, Tinayeshe this, Tishe, all this stuff. And they're like, who the heck is Tishe? And then they'd point at me, and they're like, oh, Kennedy. And they're like, who's Kennedy? And I'm like, guys, they're the same person. It's not that hard. Oh, man. But there was always this question of, okay, what do you want us to call you? And at that time, I was primarily going by Tinayeshe. But then there were people who always knew me as Kennedy. And I wasn't like out here gonna cuss them out if they called me Kennedy. I was like, fine, you can just call me Kenneth, whatever. So then that, like, it just got complex unnecessarily. Long story long, we get to this point. I'd started going by Kennedy again because it was just easier. Again, similar situation. I did the experiment. I didn't really hate my name anymore, but it was just more of a, you know, Kennedy's easy. It's after my grandfather. My mom's not gonna, it don't matter. Like, I could say my name is Shaniqua. I could say my name is Trevor. I don't know. Mufasa. Doesn't matter. I could change my name to whatever I wanted to change it to. My mother would still be calling me Kennedy. She would not respect those boundaries. Granted, it's okay. I'm not mad at her about it. I'm just saying, my mom, I am Kennedy. Like, that is just, that's what, and I always give her grief about it because I'm like, Mom, you're the one that gave me Tinayeshe. What was the point? But anyway, why didn't you just make Kennedy my first name? It would have been so much easier. But Kennedy, Tinayeshe, Manyika doesn't feel the same. Like, Tinayeshe, Kennedy, Manyika, just, it flows the way that I like it flowing. So I'm glad. I like my name. Anyway. Ooh, Lord, them brakes, truck, them brakes. We're here now, and changed my social media. And now I'm around more people who follow me and want to know, oh my gosh, you're a different person. You're going by a new name. Which, am I supposed to call you Tinayeshe now? And I'm like, you can do what you want. And that's not a sufficient answer. And I understand that there are people who, when they change their name or they change something like their name or their Instagram profile, that is kind of like an identity change. Like, they are saying, this is who I am now. I once went by this. Now I'm going by this. This is me. To be honest, I changed it to Tinayeshe because I thought it was going to look cooler on my Instagram. I'm really not going to lie to you. That was really the only reason. And because it's my first name. That was it. That was all. It wasn't that deep. But then people kept pressing me on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, can I just do what I want and not have to deal with the questions? And this is also something that, like, white people don't really have to go through the whole, like, I'm gonna go by a different name because it's easier. Like, we have shortened versions of names, you know, like, I don't know, Tammy, or like, I can't think of anything that Tammy would be short for. Sam for Samantha. I'm not necessarily calling you Sam because it's easier than Samantha. It's just kind of like it's a pseudonym. Sam, Samantha, Emmy, Emily. It's just one less syllable. It's not that hard. Like, at that point, it's not even an ease thing for me, as it's just like, oh, I just grew up and everybody just kind of called me Emmy. Or I just grew up and everybody called me this, you know? And so, y'all are, again, dominant culture. You get to do what you want. Like, yeah, so when you're making that decision of like, I go by this now, you're just choosing to go by it. And it doesn't really have to do with ease. It has to do with like, yeah, you're just kind of doing your thing, right? But there is more of a drastic, like, call me this. For me, it was like, hey, I hated my name. So for me, I'm not asking you to call me anything. This is more of just a personal thing. I just want to get more comfortable. Like I said, the analogy that I use is Tinayeshe was on the bench for a long time, for 23 years, 20-ish years, okay? And it was on the bench because the coach didn't want him in the game, and the rest of the audience couldn't handle him being in the game. So, me being the coach was like, you know, Kennedy's been getting a lot of shine. Everybody knows who Kennedy is. Like, my profile picture didn't change. It was literally just a thing that said, I wasn't a different person. Yes, I made it harder to find me because now you're trying to figure out, oh, wait, where's this person that I follow? I'm typing in Kennedy and nothing's coming up. Oh, and then I type Tinayeshe now. So yeah, you learn how to spell my name. All right, yes, it's a little harder. But all I'm saying with the basketball analogy, Tinayeshe and Kennedy can be in the game at the same time. Okay? They can't both have the ball at the same time, but they can be in the game at the same time. Okay? The coach, me, they're both in the personnel package. They're both getting playing time. You can decide which one you want to say. My friend Naeem was like, hey, I want to call you Tinayeshe. And I was like, my friend, go for it. Guess what? If I'm in a room, in a crowded room, and I hear somebody say Kennedy, I'm going to turn because I don't know a lot of guy Kennedys, and it's my name. So I'm going to turn because I'm trying to figure out who. And if multiple people turn, then we'll all be like, which one? And they'll be like, the black guy. And then if there's two black guys, then they'll be like him, and they'll point at me. And I'll be like, okay, great. If they say Tinayeshe, guess what? I'm going to turn because ain't nobody else in the room named that. So, it isn't like they're both my name. I was just at a place where I needed to be comfortable. Like, again, it still feels a little unnatural for me to introduce myself as Tinayeshe because I've gone by Kennedy my whole life. So, yeah, I'm not like used to introduce it. I tried to force myself to, it just doesn't really happen. But, okay, that's fine. My encouragement to you, if you want to call me Tinayeshe, go for it. If you don't want to call me Tinayeshe, I would encourage you to make that reason because when I just see you, you're Kennedy. I know you as Kennedy. Don't default to Kennedy because Tinayeshe is hard to say. It's really not. It's 4 syllables. Kennedy is 3. Tinayeshe is 4. It's just 1 extra syllable. And if you can say Gorbachev, you can say Tinayeshe. If you can say Vladimir Putin the right way, then you can say Tinayeshe the right way. It ain't that hard. All right. So, that's really my answer. I'm not picking. I'm not gonna, I don't feel like I have to pick one. And just because you feel like I have to pick one doesn't do anything for me. I'm sorry, y'all. I spent 18 minutes telling you that I'm not choosing. Sorry. If you want to call me Tinayeshe, if your spirit is vibing with Tinayeshe, guess what? My spirit is okay with that. And if your spirit is vibing with Kennedy, my spirit is okay with that. My thing is, my learning thing, my teaching moment for you Americans, for you white folk, is, again, at least try and take the moment to learn. It ain't that hard. You just have to listen and attempt it a couple times, and then after messing up a couple times, you'll figure it out. So just figure it out and then you'll be good, okay? That's my learning moment for my fellow Caucasian friends. That's it. Tonight, ooh, Lord, sorry. I got a little gassy in the chest. I wasn't trying to burp on the pod, though. Tinayeshe. Kennedy Manika. And if you don't remember how to say it, or if you want to say it, that's fine. And if you don't want to, that's cool. It's nothing deep outside of me learning to appreciate my first name, because I actually love them both. Because Tinayeshe actually means something when I translate it to English. Kennedy doesn't mean anything to me outside of the fact that it's my grandfather's name, and that means the world to me. So both of them are important. Both of them have different forms of sentimental value to me, and that's just where I'm at. So the choice is yours. I'm not gonna carry the burden of choice for you. I will just encourage you to make that decision because it's vibing, not because it's about ease, because that's just annoying. Your name's too difficult for me to say, so I'm just gonna call you something else. What? That's crazy. Get out of here with that nonsense. So that's where I'm at. That was the Nightly Muse. At least on this, I introduced myself as Tinayeshe. Sometimes I'll say Kennedy. As you know, I freely transition from both. When I talk about myself in the third person, I usually say Kennedy. When I introduce myself in the show, I say Tinayeshe. So, this is the Nightly Muse with your host, Tinayeshe Kennedy Manika. And I'm out. Shout out Low Fly. Peace! Y'all are gonna be so annoyed with me. 21 minutes for me to not actually give you the answer that you wanted to hear. Man, I bet you wanna. Nah,